Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, lahu ni'matu wa lahu al-fadlu wa lahu al-thana'u al-hasan was-salatu was-salamu ala sayyidina wa habibina wa maulana Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. I ask Allah, the Exalted, to grant us all the sincerest of intentions, the ability to understand and to do good, and the reward in the hereafter. Thereafter, I remind us all once again to correct our intention, to seek the reward from Allah alone. When you leave your homes, you have to take time out. In the winter, there are extra challenges. You may have been working all day. I know there are different things that people had to go through to get here. So yes, the knowledge is beneficial without any doubt. However, there is a lot of reward in it, a huge amount of reward. Some of these things one cannot appreciate or will not appreciate until they get to the Day of Judgment. The Prophet ﷺ said, if you learn one chapter of knowledge, this is more rewardable than performing 1,000 rak'ahs of the nafil prayer. And in another hadith, he said, the one who leaves their house to learn the religious knowledge, they are like a person similar to the one who goes to fight for the sake of Allah, like to lay down their life. That if they die like that, they would die similar to the status of a martyr. So the reward is huge. It's not a little. If the Prophet ﷺ said, if you say Subhanallah wa bihamdi once, Allah would give you a tree of gold in paradise by saying Subhanallah wa bihamdi. Once this statement. Think about if you're reading 2 rak'ahs of the nafil prayer, how much azkar you will make, bowing, prostrating in different positions, praising Allah and glorifying Him, putting your forehead on the ground, submitting yourself in worship to Allah. The reward in 2 rak'ahs of nafil prayer, it's huge. It's not a little. Then what about 1,000 rak'ahs? And then what about when the Prophet ﷺ said, if you learn a chapter of knowledge, this is more rewardable than performing 1,000 rak'ahs of the nafil prayer. So there is a lot of reward. One needs to maintain that energy and effort. If somebody, as I said in the past, was to say to one of us, come to the lesson, you'll get 500 pounds an hour. Like, you'd be rushing to get there. This is worth a lot more than that. But for that reward, you need to be patient until the Day of Judgment. Okay, and I'm not telling you just like I promise you X or Y from just myself. This is what the Prophet ﷺ promised with, the glad tidings that he came with. So as Imam Shafi'i radiyallahu anh, he said, knowledge did not give me, remember we mentioned it last week, a part of itself until I gave all of myself to it. Knowledge did not give me a part of itself until I gave all of myself to it. So let's put that due effort and continue, insha'Allah, reviewing together the personal obligatory knowledge of the religion. Just as the Prophet ﷺ said, طَلَبُ الْعِلْمِ فَرِيضَةٌ عَلَى كُلِّ مُسْلِمٍ. There is a minimum amount of knowledge that every Muslim, male and female, okay? Every Muslim, male and female, Arab and non-Arab, rich and poor, doesn't matter what your profession is, that you need to learn it, a minimum amount. Okay, you could be a person who is, I don't know, working as a lawyer, a dentist, a doctor, a teacher, and you could be somebody who is a bricklayer. You might be somebody who is not working, you're just running a household. But the reality is each and every one of us needs a certain amount of religious knowledge to operate, to live our lives. There are some things that every Muslim needs to observe, like the correct belief in Allah, like to purify and pray. There are things that are a personal obligation, but then sometimes things outside of that. What are the rules in the religion that if a person wants to get married, how do you get married? If you have children, religiously whose responsibility, for example, is it to do the cooking? Religiously, whose responsibility is it to, for example, change the nappy of the baby, for example? Through to if you buy something and sell something. Whatever issue you actually consider in your life, there are rules in the religion about it. And these are things you can't know just from your imagination. So one needs to put a certain amount of effort to acquire a minimum amount of religious knowledge that will allow you to fulfill what Allah, our Creator, made an obligation upon us, and to avoid the sinful, the haram, the unlawful matters that Allah, our Creator, prohibited us from doing. How will you know what are the things you have to do and what are the things you have to keep away from if you didn't learn the religious knowledge? You can't know it just from your mind. It's not enough just to be born into a Muslim household or a family without you actually learning. How would a person, for example, know that there are 5 fard prayers in each day and night? How would a woman know that she needs to cover the hair of her head in public, for example? How would she know such a thing? You can't know this from your mind. That she has to cover her neck as well. Many sisters, they might wear a headscarf and they wrap it around their neck in a way that this part of the neck below the chin, it remains uncovered. How would she know that actually no, she needs to cover the whole of her neck? And she can't, for example, show bits of her ear. And it's not just a case of, well, you know, she's preserving her beauty and so on else. She might be bald. Her hair might be gray. Right? And still she needs to observe certain rules here. So each of these things, how is any one of us gonna know about it? The answer is by acquiring the religious knowledge from somebody knowledgeable and trustworthy who learned from another person who has knowledge and who is trustworthy. They are a person who is caring for their own hereafter and they care about your hereafter. They are not doing it for the sake of money, power or fame. Okay? Now, that fame issue, it's more challenging. Soon as you sit as a teacher like this in front of everybody, it is more challenging, okay? But still, and these rules apply to me as they apply to others. And I'm sharing them with you bluntly because it's not in my interest to have people following me blindly at all. Allah, protect me and have mercy upon me and you. So, to learn from somebody who is knowledgeable and trustworthy, somebody who is not, if you like, fixated or interested in money, power or fame, because if they are, for the sake of one of these things, for the sake of getting more money, to get power, to be famous, they might say that the right thing is wrong, and they might say the wrong thing is right. And that could have disastrous consequences for us on the Day of Judgment. The Prophet ﷺ, in more than one hadith, he warned about the dangers of following people blindly. The Quran warns against it and the Prophet ﷺ warned against it. In one hadith narrated by Al-Bukhari, he said there would be people who look like us, who speak the language that we speak, but who mix truth with falsehood. He said they would go into hellfire and drag others along with them. Mixing truth with falsehood. So this is something that one shouldn't take lightly. There's a lot at stake. Not a little bit, a lot. Thereafter, having gone through the introduction, had a bit of a recap there, let us move into the, if you like, proper part of the book. So, at the start of it, the author, may Allah have mercy upon him, he said, Babul Aqaid, chapter on the Creedal matters. What does it mean when we say the creedal matters, al-aqaid? Al-aqaid is the plural of the word aqidah. This word aqidah, it literally refers to something that is firmly tied and locked in the heart. Okay, something that is firmly tied to and locked within the heart. In this context in which we are speaking, it refers to what some people refer to as the articles of faith or the basics of belief. The key fundamental issues of belief that a Muslim needs to have locked in their heart, firmly tied and locked in their heart. Now again, if a person does not know what those matters are, how would they have them firmly tied and locked in their heart? These matters can be the difference between being judged as a Muslim as opposed to a kafir. So to know them and to understand them well, not even just to take them superficially. Because Allah the Exalted revealed in the Quran that all sins that a person might do, they are forgivable except for kufr. Kufr is the only sin that if somebody dies upon it, it will never be forgiven. Such an individual who dies upon kufr, they will go to hellfire forever without an end. That's not a light matter. There will be some Arabs who would be in hellfire. There would be people who think about themselves that they are Muslims who would be dying upon kufr. And in this era, sadly, it's become very, very common. Scarily common. One of the scholars of the past, he said that nowadays things are so bad that if a person dies upon Iman, perhaps the angels would be astonished. This scholar, he said this about 100 years ago in a Muslim country. Can you imagine what the situation is nowadays? Many of us, we saw a clear deterioration over the last 10, 20 and 30 years. Allah have mercy upon us. Thereafter, the author said, fasl, section. So this book is divided into chapters, abwab. The singular of that is bab, okay, like door, but here it means chapters, okay, or chapter. Those chapters are divided into sections, fasl. So that's just something you'll see throughout the book. We'll say Babul Aqaid, Babul Tahara, the chapter of Aqidah, the chapter of purification, the chapter of prayer, the chapter of fasting. But then within that, you'll find we'll say Fasl. Fasl on istinja, fasl on how to make wudu, how to make istinja, how to do wudu, and so on else. That just gives you again a bit of another stepping stone into the book. Thereafter, the author, may Allah have mercy upon him, he said, أَعْظَمُ أُمُورِ الْإِسْلَامِ خَمْسَةً. The greatest matters in Islam are 5. When we say greatest matters here, it refers to matters that are a personal obligation and which in general are considered the most honorable and rewardable. There are certain things that are very rewardable, but they would be an obligation upon a community. Then there are some things that are an obligation upon each and every single individual. And if you think about it, when you're learning the religious knowledge, that's what you're going to start with. What do I have to do as an individual in a way that I'm not excused if I miss it out? Because there are some things that if some Muslims take care of it, I'm relieved of that obligation. But then there are others which are what? A personal obligation. So they have a particular importance, a particular greatness, a particular significance. These 5 matters that we're going to come on to talk about, they are a personal obligation. And they are, in general, the most honorable and rewardable of matters that a person can do. Okay, even though there are other again, very honorable and rewardable matters within the religion of Islam. So what is Islam? Al-Islam is the name of the religion that Allah accepted for His slaves to follow. The only religion that Allah accepted as valid for His slaves to follow is the religion of Islam. Allah revealed in the Quran, Inna ad-deena inda Allahi al-Islam, that the only religion that Allah has accepted for His slaves to follow is the religion of Islam, the religion of all of the prophets, the religion of Prophet Adam and the religion of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Okay, the first and the last of the prophets. Islam, this literally means submission, to surrender or to submit. That is to submit yourself to worship Allah alone and to believe in what Allah revealed through His messengers without objecting to anything that Allah revealed. That's like the essence of submitting. You submit without objecting. The kafir, he objects to one or more things. Some kafirs might just object to one thing that Allah revealed. They might say, I agree with 99% of what Islam says, but this one thing, I don't accept it. They object to it. Okay, Iblis, remember, Shaitan, he was worshipping Allah. But then there was one thing that he couldn't accept. How would it be that Allah granted somebody made out of a clay, created after him, a higher status than what was granted to him? He objected to that. He believed that Allah is his creator. He knew that. He worshipped Allah. But then he got to a point that he objected to one thing. And as such, he committed kufr by that. He became amongst the kuffar, the kafirs. So Islam means to submit and to surrender, to worship Allah alone, and to believe in what Allah revealed through His messengers without objecting to anything that the prophets conveyed. The one who submits, i.e., who embraces the religion of Islam. And because how do you do that? By saying the testifications of faith. You say there is no God except Allah. There is no creator except Allah. And Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam, that he is the prophet of Allah. Okay? Without objecting. You embrace the religion of Islam. So by saying these two testifications of faith, such a person is called a Muslim. Okay? In Arabic, they are called a Muslim. For a female, you would say Muslimah. Okay? So for the male, a Muslim, and for a female, a Muslimah. So as we said, Islam is the religion of all the prophets. All of them were Muslims. There was no atheist, Jew, Christian, Hindu, polytheist among them. Every single one of them was a Muslim, even though the rules revealed to some of them in some issues were different. Some of them, the obligation was to pray twice a day. Okay? For some, once a day. The rules like that differed. But all of them, their religion was Islam. So they all worshipped Allah alone. And some things were common for the all of the ummahs, all of the nations of all the prophets. Like you can't kill, you can't rape, you can't consume something that's gonna alter your mind, to get intoxicated. Okay? Or talking about taking a small amount of something so that you lose your mind. This is something that was impermissible in the rules revealed to all of the prophets. Okay? So these 5 greatest matters that we're gonna come on to talk about, what's the origin of them? On what basis are we saying there are 5 matters in particular that are considered the greatest matters of Islam? The answer is, the author, may Allah have mercy upon him, he mentioned this relying upon what the Prophet ﷺ taught in a Sahih hadith narrated by Imam Muslim. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Buniya al-Islamu ala khams. شهادتي أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمدا عبده ورسوله وإقام الصلاة وإيتاء الزكاة وحج البيت وصوم رمضان." The Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, he said the greatest matters in Islam. He literally said Islam is established upon 5, which we'll come on to explain. What is meant here is that these are the foundations, the pillars, the greatest matters in Islam. The first that he mentioned is the Shahada, to testify that nothing deserves to be worshipped except Allah, and that Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam is the slave of Allah and his messenger. Thereafter, number 2, to perform the obligatory prayers, as-salah, 5 times a day in a steadfast manner, and to not miss one among them without a religious excuse, as we'll come on to review in a lot more detail in the lessons that will follow, insha'Allah. To give zakah, okay, to give zakah, that is to pay a certain amount upon either wealth that you own or upon a person who would be alive at a particular time, again the details of which will follow insha'Allah. To perform Hajj at least once in one's lifetime, and to fast the month of Ramadan. So in this hadith, as it says, it literally says Islam is established upon 5 matters. And some of the scholars, they mentioned that these are like 5 pillars of a building. The closest example to that is to bring it closer to one's mind. Imagine a marquee that has a central column and then 4 other columns, one in each of the corners. Without these 5, that building is not, or that marquee, like that big tent, it's not going to have like a proper structure. You take the middle one out and it's like there's nothing there. The whole starts to collapse. The Shahada is like that central pillar. These other 4 matters are 4 other fundamental issues that a person needs to observe as a personal obligation. Remember what I said earlier on? As a personal, individual obligation upon everybody. Fard, okay? Obligation upon each and every single individual. Thereafter, there are other things that you can add to this structure that give it further strength. Okay? And they are similar to the other things that are mentioned within the religion. It does not therefore mean that these 5 things are the only matters in Islam, or that these are the only great matters in Islam. It means that these have a particular, if you like, position in the religion in a way that other things in general do not. They have a particular prominence in the religion that is greater than the prominence or importance of other great matters within the religion. So the author, having mentioned that there are 5 matters that are the greatest matters in Islam, he mentioned what they are, just as is mentioned within the hadith. So we'll go through each one individually, insha'Allah. So he said, أعظم أمور الإسلام 5 شهادة أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمد رسول الله وإقام الصلاة وإيتاء الزكاة وصوم رمضان وحج البيت من استطاع إليه سبيلا. The greatest matters of Islam are 5. The testification that there is no God except Allah, and that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam is the messenger of Allah. Number two, performing the obligatory salah, that is the prayer, 5 times a day, giving the zakah, fasting during Ramadan, and performing pilgrimage to the house for the one who is able to make a way to it. So we'll explain each of these parts now. So the first thing that he said, after saying there are 5 matters that are considered the greatest in Islam, what's the first word that he said? He said the shahada. Okay, shahadatu an la ilaha illallah. So what does shahada mean? Shahada literally means to bear witness, to testify to something, to bear witness to something. But if we go in more detail with this issue, shahada, it contains 3 things. Okay, we all concentrating? Let's keep the energy going, all right? Got a break coming up. So, shahada, how many things did we say? 3 things, okay? So when you say ashhadu, I testify, I bear witness, you're actually saying 3 things. I know, I believe, and I declare. Okay, I know, I believe, and I believe in my heart, and I declare with my tongue. I say it. Okay, all 3 of these things are included when we say shahada or ashhadu, when you testify. So from this it would be clear that it is not enough for a person just to know without believing. There are some things that people know, like they know that Islam is true. There are some people who knew that the Prophet ﷺ is the Prophet of Allah, but they did not accept it in their hearts. They did not believe it in their hearts. It's not something that they accepted and tied firmly within their hearts without doubting about it, because doubt is the opposite of believing. So without doubting about it, having firmly within their heart, they knew that he's the Prophet of Allah, but they did not believe in it. Some others, they didn't say it with their tongue. And if you don't say it, then you're not considered a Muslim. You're not considered a mu'min. For a person to be considered a Muslim, for a person to be considered a mu'min, a believer, you have to have all of these 3. You have to know it, you need to believe it. Okay, because to believe it, you need to know what you're believing first, isn't it? So you need to know, you need to believe, okay, and then you need to say it. That's how you would be judged as a Muslim. That is, that there is no God except Allah, and that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, alayhi salatu wasalam. And this we're going to go into even more detail in this Babul Aqidah, if you like. Thereafter, the performance of the obligatory prayers and zakah, likewise these other issues, fasting Ramadan and performing Hajj, we'll also talk about them in more detail in the chapters that follow. In this chapter though, we'll go through the testifications of faith, La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah, in more detail. Yani if you say La ilaha illallah, even without saying ashhadu, but in the meaning that you are saying this based upon you know it, you believe it, and you say it with your tongue, then it's not even a must that you say ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Even if you said la ilaha illallah, then this would be a valid first testification. Okay, just to make that point clear. When it said to make a way to the house, okay, to make a way to the house, okay, this means the Kaaba. Alright, this means the Kaaba. And it means for the one who is able to do it financially and physically. Right? If you're able to get to the Kaaba, then you need to do that to perform the Hajj during the specific time that the Prophet ﷺ specified for you to perform Hajj, okay, to the Kaaba, if what? You are physically and financially able. Okay, and Allah, the Exalted, knows best. Let's stop there for now, for a break. Bismillah, alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. May Allah grant us all the sincerest of intentions, the ability to understand and to do good, and the reward in the hereafter. Thereafter, the author, may Allah have mercy upon him, after mentioning the 5 greatest matters in Islam, he went on to talk about the greatest matters in belief. So just one thing before that, so that nobody misunderstands one point that was made earlier on. In the rules revealed to the Prophet ﷺ, if a person consumes something that intoxicates, then this is not permissible. Even if that thing is then consumed in a small amount at which it did not intoxicate, like alcohol. Alcohol, if you take one sip of it, it doesn't intoxicate you, but it's still haram, still not permissible, whether you take a small amount of it or a large amount of it. However, as you know, in the early part of the revelation, the rule specifically prohibiting the consumption of alcohol was not revealed. This was revealed later on, years into the revelation. So back to the text, the author, may Allah have mercy upon him, he said, وَأَعْظَمُ أَمُورِ الْإِيمَانِ سِتَّةً الإيمان بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله واليوم الآخر وبالقدر خيره وشره. He said the greatest matters of the belief of Iman are 6. So having talked about the 5 greatest matters in Islam, and the greatest matter among those 5 was what? The Shahada. Believing in Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He went into this in a bit more detail. So he said this greatest matter, that is the issue of belief, there are 6 things that are considered the greatest matters of belief. Okay, ultimately that is when a person believes in Allah and His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there are some additional matters that follow on from that. If you believe in Allah and you believe in His Messenger, you believe what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught, what he conveyed, the message with which he came. You believe in those things as well. So when you look at it from that perspective, let it be known that there are 6 matters that are considered the greatest articles or matters of belief. And the author, he mentioned them here. He said the belief, that is the correct belief in Allah, His angels, His books, His messengers, the last day, and in the predestining of good and evil. So we're going to go through each of these 6 in just a bit more detail for the remainder of this lesson, insha'Allah. Now, when the author, he said there are 6 matters that are considered the greatest in belief, where did he get that from? The answer is again from a saying of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, narrated by Imam Muslim in his Sahih, okay, in his authentic collection of the sayings of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this is as part of a famous, well-known hadith known as Hadith Jibreel. And this is in reference to the angel Jibreel. At one point in time, he came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam wearing white clothing in the shape of a human being, that is appearing to be like a man, but not as an actual man. That is, angels, they do not take the actual form of a human being in the sense that they don't become actual human beings. This is why some scholars said without the private parts, right? They come, but it is their face and their bodily outer bodily appearance is that of a male, never of a female. Angels will never take on the outer shape of a female. But sometimes, like Angel Jibreel, he would take the form of a male. Just like it's mentioned in the Quran when he went to Lady Maryam. Okay, in the famous account is what is mentioned in the Quran. Likewise, when he on more than one occasion came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he asked the Prophet alaihi salatu wasalam certain questions. The purpose for him to ask those questions was so that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would reply, and the people at that time and for centuries to come would become educated about some very important matters in the religion. Among them are these 6. Okay, just as we are now learning and reviewing them, okay, and benefiting from what Jibreel alayhi salam did by asking these questions, the people of the past likewise benefited. So Jibreel in this hadith, he said to the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam, فَأَخْبِرْنِي عَنِ الْإِيمَانِ. Tell me, he said to the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam, about al-Iman. Okay, what is Iman? The Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam, he replied, أن تؤمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله واليوم الآخر وتؤمن بالقدر خيره وشره. The Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam, he said, Al-Iman is to believe in Allah, His angels, His books, His messengers, the last day, and to believe in the predestining of good and evil. That is to believe in it the way the Prophet ﷺ taught. He is the one who is saying this, to believe in Allah. So that means in accordance with the way that the Prophet ﷺ taught us is the correct belief in Allah the Exalted. Moreover, when he said this is Iman, it means this is the essence of Iman. This is the base of Iman. These are the most fundamental matters in Iman. That is the greatest matters in Iman. So, for a person to be considered a mu'min, okay, a believer who actually has Iman, for them to be considered a mu'min, a believer, and for them to be considered a Muslim. This issue has got some details, but in simple terms, let it be known that Islam and Iman, these terms are synonymous. You can use them interchangeably. The Muslim is the mu'min. The mu'min is the Muslim. As one of the scholars said, it's like the front and back of the same thing. Right? You can't separate them. The thing that has a front has a back. What has a back has a front. Islam and Iman, they are one and the same. However, the essence of Iman that makes you a Muslim, for some people, this tasdeeq that you do, okay, as we'll come on to talk about in this slide here, this tasdeeq, this confirmation that you do, it might vary between one individual and the next. Okay, so the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam, he started off by saying what? That you need to believe, all right? An tu'mina billah, that you believe, that you have Iman in Allah. That is the correct Iman. That is as was taught by the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. Thereafter, the linguistic meaning of Iman according to the Arabic language, when we say Iman, literally in English we would say belief. In Arabic it is defined as tasdeeq. Tasdeeq means to confirm something. Okay, confirmation. That is to confirm a matter without having any doubt in it, in a firm way, to confirm it. When we talk about Iman religiously, this is, as the scholars said, tasdeequn khas, a specific type of confirmation, a specific confirmation. That is, in this context, when a person is having Iman in Allah, it means to have a firm conviction, a firm belief in your heart in Allah, in compliance with what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught. If you don't have that essence, that basic essence, then you are not a mu'min. It is not that the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he had one Iman in Allah and the others have another. No. To be a Muslim, you need to have the same Iman about Allah that the Prophet had. The same belief that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had about Allah, that's the same belief that we need to have for you to be considered as a believer. However, this, if you like, strength by which you confirm, okay, that might differ between one individual and another. The confirmation that the Prophets had and the like of Abu Bakr radiyallahu anh had, the strength of that confirmation, it would be stronger than others who are not at their level. But what they are confirming, there isn't a difference in that. They confirm that Allah exists and does not resemble the creation. That is what they had Iman in when it is said that one needs to have Iman in Allah. And in that there isn't a difference. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not come with two religions. Okay, he came with one religion. And it's not that he had one belief about Allah and his companions had another, and those who came after the companions had a third belief about Allah. No. Rather, they had one and same belief about Allah, the Exalted. Even if the strength by which they confirmed would differ between one individual and the next. So, to expand a bit more, when we say to believe in Allah, this means to have the correct belief in Allah, the belief that agrees with the belief of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In other words, that is, to believe without any doubt that Allah is a that, which literally means a self, that has sifat, attributes. Okay, Allah is the name of God in Arabic. Allah is a that, literally a self that is not like other selves. Allah is not a body. Allah does not resemble the creation. Allah is a that does not resemble other thats, other selves. And He has sifat, attributes. Thereafter, when we say about Allah, and when we use the word Allah, this means the one attributed with ilahiyya, Godhood. That is, that Allah alone is the creator. When we say I believe in Allah, it means I believe in a that, an existing one, okay, whose existence is not like mine or your existence, and who alone is the creator, i.e., the one who brings things into existence after they did not exist. And in other words, when we say we believe in Allah, it means we believe in one who does not have any parts or partners, who does not resemble the creation, whose existence is not like my existence or your existence, who alone is the creator. All of that is included. Who alone is the creator. Who alone brings things into existence after they did not exist. Who is attributed with perfect attributes, with absolute perfection, without resembling the creation in any way whatsoever. Thus, the Dhat and Sifat of Allah are eternal without a beginning. Every single one of us, we, our Dhat and our Sifat, we have a beginning. Okay? Ourself, we are composed of parts. We are a body. Allah's Dhat is not like that. There are no particles when talking about the Dhat of Allah. Allah is not a light, a soul, or a spirit. Whatever we imagine in our minds, Allah is not like that. So Allah is, I'm saying some things here, all of them, they are like expressing one thing in more than one way. Okay, I might have mentioned 4 or 5 or 6 things. Ultimately, they are all supporting each other. And in some issues, I'm just saying that same thing in more than one way. When I say Allah is not like the creation, okay, and I say Allah exists without a beginning, these are both related points. Each of us, we have a beginning. Allah is not like that. Okay, Allah is not like the creation. Allah does not have a beginning. Allah has a Dhat, a self, and He has a Sifat. He has Sifat, He has attributes. His Dhat is not a body. His self is not a body. And His attributes are not like our attributes. Allah exists without a beginning and is everlasting without an end. Thereafter, the author, he said to have Iman in the Malaika, the angels. This means to have the correct belief about the angels. The angels in the hadith, if you note, they were mentioned after believing in Allah, before mentioning the belief in the prophets, even though the prophets have a higher status. Some of the scholars, they said the angels were mentioned first in this hadith prior to mentioning the prophets as per the order of creation, because they were created prior to the creation of human beings, and not because they are better than the prophets. Okay, not because they are better than the prophets. Thereafter, when we say to have the correct belief, the proper belief in the angels, what does that mean? It means to believe that the angels, they are a special creation that Allah created. A creation that has a soul inside it. Okay, humans, jinn, angels, animals, insects, okay, they all have souls inside them. Plants do not have souls inside them. Trees do not have souls inside them. Angels have souls inside them. Angels are created from light, and they are obedient slaves of Allah. They are having some similarities with human beings, i.e. they have bodies, but bodies that you can't physically grab hold of in your hand. Okay? But they have a body, they have a size, they have a shape. Okay? They have a size and they have a shape. They have a beginning to their existence. They are in need of Allah, the Exalted. However, Allah sustains them without food and drink. So they do not eat and they do not drink. In fact, they do not even sleep. Allah gave them the ability to function without the need for sleep. But they do not resemble Allah, and Allah does not resemble them. Yes, they are different to human beings in ways, but in some issues, they have a similarity. They have a beginning to their existence, as I said. Okay, they have a body. But they are not males and they are not females. This is the basic belief in the angels. And they always obey Allah. This is another basic issue. They never disobey Allah the Exalted. Whatever Allah ordered them to do, they do it. Thereafter, after mentioning about the angels, the author, may Allah have mercy upon him, he said to have Iman in the Kutub of Allah, that is, in the books of Allah. This means to believe that Allah revealed books to different prophets. Every book was perfect and without mistakes. Upon the order of Allah, these books were written down in different languages, in the preserved tablet, in Al-Lawhul Mahfuz. This is a creation of Allah that is above the seven skies. It is a 500-year walking distance, a very large creation of Allah in which everything is written, okay, including the revealed books. So the books, they were written down in the preserved tablet upon the order of Allah. Subsequently, they were conveyed to different prophets, again upon the order of Allah. Therefore, they were not authored by a human being, a jinn or an angel. Okay? It's not that an angel wrote them down. At the start of the creation, Allah created different, if you like, honorable creatures, physical things. Among them was the preserved tablet. Among the early, if you like, things that Allah created was something called a qalam. It means pen, but a special pen. Allah ordered it to write everything that was there from the first of creation until the last person to enter paradise enters paradise, and the last person to enter hellfire enters hellfire, including what all of us are doing right now. All of it was written down. Okay? Including the revealed books in the different languages. Then, at set times, Allah ordered these books, a copy of them, to be brought down. The Quran was brought down from the preserved tablet, as Ibn Hibban narrated in his Sahih, on the 24th night of Ramadan, okay, to a place in the first sky called Baytul Izzah. From there, over a 23-year period, to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam through Angel Jibreel. Okay? The Prophet did not author the Quran. Angel Jibreel did not author the Quran. And nor was it, this was his understanding, that he was just expressing. No. He conveyed what was written in the preserved tablet. Without what was written in the preserved tablet, without any of us imagining that Allah spoke these words. Okay? To be clear, we say that what was revealed is the kalam of Allah. This will come on to explain in more detail in the lessons to come. But for now, let it be known that the kalam of Allah has two meanings. Okay, how many meanings? Two. One meaning is the attribute of Allah, which is not a letter, not a language, and not a sound. Allah does not speak Arabic or English or Urdu or Punjabi or Persian or Hebrew or the like. All languages are created. Allah doesn't speak in letters and sounds. Allah's kalam, which is His attribute, it doesn't have a beginning, it doesn't have an ending. Okay? On the day of judgment, everybody will hear the kalam of Allah and they will be held to account. Even Iblis, who will have lived for thousands of years, in a very short period of time, everybody will be held to account. Because the kalam of Allah is not a letter, it's not a language, it's not a sound. That is the attribute of Allah. As for the revealed books, they are revealed in different languages. The Quran in Arabic, the Torah in Hebrew, the Zabur in Hebrew, the Injil in Syriac. okay, in different languages to different prophets. Allah did not speak these words, but all of those revealed books, they are referred to as being the kalam of Allah. Why? Because a human didn't author them, an angel didn't author them. Rather, they were written in the preserved tablet upon the order of Allah, by Allah creating the qalam, the writing, and in what was written, upon what was written, i.e. the preserved tablet. All of that, Allah created it. But it wasn't somebody, if you like, a human or an angel writing it down. So it's referred to as the kalam of Allah. I'll repeat that again. The revealed books, they are referred to as what? The kalam of Allah. In the meaning that these were honorable books that were revealed by Allah without a human or an angel authoring them. Clear? Without a human or an angel authoring them. Thereafter, we have the phrase kalam of Allah, which is the attribute of Allah, which is not a letter, a language, or a sound. Okay? طيب. All of the revealed books, they have been lost except for the Quran. So the original of the revealed books, the only one that remains is the Quran. The Torah, it was lost, the Zabur was lost, and the Injil was lost. Some books contained new rules within them, and some books just affirmed what was revealed to the Prophet before. And one Prophet, okay, Ibn Hibban in another hadith, he mentioned that there were 104 books in total. 50 that were revealed to Prophet Sheeth, 30 to Prophet Idris, 10 to Prophet Ibrahim, 10 to Prophet Musa, other than the Torah. Okay, that takes you to 100. Then you got the Torah, the Zabur to Prophet Dawood, the Injil to Prophet Isa, and the Quran to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Thereafter, to believe in his messengers. This means to have the correct the messengers. In the Arabic text, it states Warusuli, which literally means and his messengers. And it means all of the prophets that Allah sent. All of the prophets that Allah arsala. Okay, it literally means all of the prophets that Allah sent. Allah sent them to call people to worship Allah, the Exalted alone, and to convey the rules that Allah revealed. All of these messengers, they were prophets, and they were truthful humans and males. There wasn't a female among them, and there wasn't a jinn among them. They were all humans and males, and one should not object to that. Had Allah willed, He could have made only the angels as His messengers and not had any human being. Had Allah eternally willed, He could have made them women. Had Allah eternally willed, He could have made them amongst the jinn. Had Allah eternally willed, He could have made them only amongst the Arabs, even though there was only 4 Arab prophets. In one hadith, it says there was 124,000 prophets. And then in another text it says 4 of them were Arabs. Okay, Allah is not obligated to do anything. Allah confirmed the truthfulness of the prophets by supporting them with mu'jizas, miracles, that is extraordinary matters, that nobody could do something similar to them to discredit that prophet. Okay, when the Prophet does a miracle, it's something so amazing. It can't be explained by the norm, like splitting the moon in 2 or bringing the dead back to life. It's not something that a magician can do. And by doing it, It is a sign or an expression of this person is truthful. Allah, by creating the miracle, is telling us this is His messenger. This is somebody who is conveying from Allah, i.e., it is somebody who is truthful. Okay, Allah protected them from lying and supported all of His prophets with miracles. Note thereafter that in some religious contexts, the word Rasool, messenger, has a different meaning. Here, when we said to believe in the Rasools, the Rasool, it means messenger, i.e. the one that Allah sent. And it includes all of the prophets. When you go into some technical details here, you have Nabi and Rasool. All of the Rasools are Rasools and Nabis. Okay, they are Anbiya. Okay, they are a Nabi. But not every Rasool, not every Nabi is a Rasool. If I put it to you another way, imagine there was a row of all of the prophets, okay? 124,000 of them. 313 of them were and Rasool. Do you understand that? Some of them were just Nabi and not a Rasool. But some of them, if you imagine it like in one row, you have Nabi and above it Rasool, if you were writing it down like that. Okay? So you have Anbiya, okay, around 124,000. 313 of them were Nabi and Rasool. The others were just Anbiya, Nabi. And they are all the best of creation. Every prophet is better than the angels and the rest of the human beings. Okay, so if they are a Nabi and not a Rasool, this does not mean they didn't have a high status. They had a very high status. But if you are a Nabi and a Rasool, then the status is even higher. Is that clear? Okay, what's the difference between a Nabi and a Rasool? The scholars, they mention different things. The saying that has the strongest weight is to say that the Rasool, they are given at least one new rule that differs with the Rasool that went before them. Okay? So, to give an example, Prophet Musa is a Nabi and a Rasool. Then after him, there's loads of prophets. Among them, Nabi Dawood and Nabi Sulaiman, Nabi Zakaria, Nabi Yahya, until Nabi Isa, who was a follower originally of whom? Prophet Musa. He memorized the Torah when he was a young man. Then Allah gave him revelation. And in some rules, he was given something new and different to what was revealed to Prophet Musa. By that, okay, he was what? A Nabi and a Rasool. Some scholars said a Rasool is the one who's given a book. But what did we say before? How many books were revealed in total? 104. Narrated by Ibn Hibban, okay, in his Sahih. 104 books. How many Rasools are there? 313. So clearly, it doesn't stack up then to say the Rasool is the one who is given a book. Especially, we even said in that narration, it says some prophets were given more than one book. Okay, scrolls even. That's included. So, the correct saying, the stronger saying, based upon the evidence, is to say, as certain scholars said, the difference between a Nabi and a Rasool is that a Rasool is given at least one new rule that differs with the Rasool that went before him. As for the Nabi, they receive revelation. Okay, they receive revelation. However, the revelation that they are given is to follow the rules that were given to the Rasool before them. So Nabi Dawood, he was given revelation to do what? Follow the rules that were given to Prophet Musa. So the Zabur that was revealed to Nabi Dawood, okay, it was in compliance with the rules that had already been revealed to Prophet Musa. It had other additional wisdoms in it, advices, guidance within it. It didn't have any new rules. Prophet Sulaiman, he was given revelation to do what? Follow what was revealed to Prophet Musa. All until Prophet Isa, what was he doing? Following the rules that were revealed to Prophet Musa. He memorized, Prophet Isa, he memorized the Torah, as I said earlier on. Likewise, many of the other prophets. Then he was given a new revelation that is a new rule. So he was a Nabi and a Rasool. Between Prophet Isa and Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam, there isn't a new prophet. There isn't a prophet. Okay? Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam was given revelation that differed in some issues to Prophet Isa. So he is what? Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam, a Nabi who is also a Rasool. And Allah, the Exalted, knows best. Okay, we'll stop up to here for today. If there's any questions, leave it outside of the class, or we'll pick up with any questions next week, and we'll continue going through the 6 greatest matters bi'idhnillah next week as well. Barakallahu feekum. Let's say La ilaha illallah. نصلى على النبي لا إله إلا الله اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. Oh Allah, forgive us, guide us and protect us. Oh Allah, accept our attendance in this gathering this evening and give a similar reward to all of our teachers back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and a similar reward to all of our deceased Muslim relatives. Oh Allah, forgive them and us all of our sins and unite us in the hereafter in the highest gardens of paradise. Oh Allah, grant us patience, sincerity, humility and steadfastness. O Allah, grant us patience, sincerity, humility, and steadfastness. O Allah, grant us patience, sincerity, humility, and steadfastness. O Allah, make us among those who support your religion day and night. O Allah, end our lives successfully. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.